Cool, we've got this all set up to record on the camera and on the computer at the same time. Hopefully there won't be too much background noise. I'm down by the lake and there are various motors going on. This will be a very quick look at the inventory of African languages that I've been putting together and the country grid of all the languages that are spoken in Africa and all of the resources that are out there for them that we're able to assemble and put together now that we know what the languages are. So I just want to show you what we can do with the current state of things. Now this is in a Google Sheet, and this is a really bad idea for how to actually distribute data, right? But we want to put this into a console that is much more easier to use. First step is to get the data, arrange it, figure out what's there, and then we have to develop the console. Right now there's no funding for it, so that's a next step to try to find the funding. But let me show you what you have, and you can use this. Now, if you go to the address that I'm putting there on your screen, you're going to find that you've got very limited facilities for being able to actually use the data. You can do certain sorts of sorting things. Oops, that's going to be in German. You can sort a column from A to Z by language name here, but you can't actually do some of the other things with the data. What you can do is you can go up, and again, we'll have to guess with the German. Somehow there's a way that you can just you'll figure it out. You can download the data and use it, make a copy of the sheet, and then you can do this all on your own with full access to all of the data that's there. What I'm going to do is show you in the working version that I have, which has all of the tools that you will be able to have at your disposal if you so choose at the moment. And again, this will hopefully get into a console for later on. I just want to show you a couple of things. First, if you click on the country grid tab, you'll find that you have all of the languages organized by country. So if you want to know all of the languages that are spoken in Burkina Faso, you would be able to go to this column. If you wanted to know all of the languages spoken in Togo, you would go to that column. This is not entirely 100% the same as the list on the other tab, the All Africa tab. There are a few that somehow got missed a little bit along the way. That'll get fixed later, so don't worry about it. I want to point out a few of the important features here. One is that this green row here, pretty much any one of those little white links, if you click on it, you'll be able to go to the website or get a link to the website that explains whatever that resource is. So for example, here's this talking about the Open Language Archives. And any language that has a link to the Open Language Archives, you would then be able to click on the link. So here is something that has Open Language Archives, right? So you'd be able to click on the microscope there, get to the Open Language Archive resources for that language. So a few of the important feature columns that you have here. First, you have this column, which is the ISO code. This is the three-letter code that designates a language, and every language has one, except the languages that are not designated by the SIL, Summer Institute of Linguistics, as actually being languages. They don't have those codes, which is a problem because there's not full agreement about what is a language, what is a dialect. This is not an important discussion for this moment. Then I've selected one primary name. Please do not argue about what exactly should be the primary name. Usually I've gone with the one that's used in Wikipedia because that's the one that people are most familiar with, probably. There are all these alternate names that we've gotten from other sources when available. There will be more alternate names coming in the very near future. The name of the language as rendered in other languages. We've got this list somebody's working on, and I'll bring it in and incorporate it when we get. Already we have all of the names in French. The countries where each language is spoken. And then whether there is a resource page. This is something I've developed, just a set of where the community can come together and put on, this is what do we know about about resources that are available for the language. This is a big part of the impetus for why this got going. But it takes a while to set that up, and it's really better done in a database, so hopefully we'll be able to migrate that in the not too distant future. Any sort of little note about the language, and then, as I said, not every language has a code from SIL, the agreed ISO 6393 code. Some of them have this other thing called a glotto code. Some of them have both. There's sometimes glotto calls something a dialect. Sometimes ISO calls something a dialect. It's complicated, and so I've gone through and tried to make those commensurate where there's one, where there's another, where they overlap. This column says whether there's a resource page in something called Lan Africa. which has resources, more information, some information about contemporary data sets, that sort of thing. It's a project in process, so you have to check there to see what's there. There may or may not be things for any particular language. Again, the Open Language Archives. Then the Wikipedia page. Now people ask, is Wikipedia a good source? I'm going to make another video about that. In this particular case, for just general basic knowledge about the existence of a language, Wikipedia, there's somebody who went through and did a really thorough job of getting a page that at least says this is a grasslands language of Cameroon or something like that. So if you click on the Wikipedia link, you'll get to that basic set of knowledge. And then in the next video, I'm going to work with a couple of people to build a Wikipedia page for a particular language spoken in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, which right now doesn't even have a page. It just has a mention on another page, and so we'll get there. What else do we have? Something called GramBank, so grammatical structures of the language. WALS is similar linguistic information about the language. If the language has a page in the Endangered Language Archives, that'll be there. There will be a check mark. Those are not clicked to go directly to the ELAR page for that language, because some languages have multiple pages and some pages are for multiple languages. And so it's just that you can click, you get to the site, and then you can find the page once you're there. Not the most efficient thing in the world, but we're talking with the archives, and hopefully we'll be able to get a better path forward in the future. Whether it's part of the Endangered Language Project. The estimated population of speakers of that language, this could be wildly off. I'm not sure, you're never sure where these estimates come from, but I won't say your guess is as good as mine. Those guesses are better than nothing. If it's a large language, probably the population has gone up over time. If it's a very small language, quite likely the population has gone down over time. And some of these estimates are from the 1990s or who knows when, and they're not from census estimates. But anyway, they're there. Also, there's an evaluation of whether the language is endangered or not, how endangered it might be. Indication of whether it is an official or national or recognized language in any particular country. So this is whether this is in a data set that has a chance of identifying, if it sees a text, that this text is from language X. If it's not one of these, then it really doesn't have any chance at all of entering into future computational processes. And then these other things, most of them you can just kind of look and see what the links are at the top. Oh, an interesting one here is it in Webinary? Webinary, almost 200 different projects of people who've done little dictionaries or big dictionaries for languages around Africa, around the world, and put them online, and usually these are free to use. They're not yet easy to use as data, so we're talking with the Webinary people about whether we can access that and put that as data. There are all these other columns. Go ahead and explore. More columns will come in over time, and hopefully they'll provide lots of other information. The one thing picking up on that is, now that we know what these languages are, and we have a consistent way of saying, okay, we can compare one language to the next, to the next, to the next, this then will enable us to do things like the work that we do at Camusi, which is building dictionaries where you say, okay, we know the word for star, as in a bright shining object in the sky, is such and such. And then we ask people in your language, what is this bright shining object in the sky? What is this bright shining object in the sky? What is this bright shining object in the sky? We can do this for every language for which we can get informants, people who know the language and can tell us about it. Or we can collect parallel sentences, is another thing that people do for being able to build machine translation that knows this is this language, this is this language, this is this language in a more complex way, and feed that into the models that artificial intelligence is going to try to use to make sense of linguistic issues. We could do that very specifically for terminology sets for example, medical issues, things that would be needed in a refugee camp, things that would be needed in an emergency. There are certain things that might be needed in an emergency. You don't know where the emergency is going to happen. You don't know what language the people are going to be speaking who are there. but you know what the concepts are that you might need, that the first responders might need. So we could do that for all of these different languages, but you first need to be able to line them, put them in the row, and there you got it. So this is the first look at this grid, and as I said, it shouldn't be on Google Sheets. It should be on the web in a much nicer console. It will be, I hope. That's part of the journey. That's part of the trek for African languages, is to try to figure out how to go from here to something much richer and more complex. But this is the first start, and I hope welcome your feedback. I really would like to know if you find this useful, what you would find more useful, how to make this into a more thorough resource, and also please, if there's a resource page for your language or a language you know have resources for, or if you would like to have a resource page for a language and it's not there, let me know. You can just go to the resource page and you can ask to subscribe, and we'll add you to the list of contributors, and you can put on all the resources. That would be really, really helpful at this point. I welcome you to use it, to enjoy it, and thank you for your time. Please make sure to subscribe to the Pirate Professor channel. That will really help make sure that other people get to see these sorts of videos and other interesting videos on other topics. Again, Pirate Professor channel, thanks for subscribing. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.